If I have a brand and when I look at that brand, it's not visibly supported by the people I need it to be supported by, is my brand really successful? Where are all the West Indian home fans? Walk with me.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes. I'm back. It's Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. This isn't a cuss-out session, you know. It kind of is, but I'm not calling it a cuss-out session. I'm just calling this one an introspection. This video here that I'm recording right now, I'm just going to throw it out there, and I'm going to be really intrigued to see not what traction it gets, because it might not get that much, but what discussions lead from this video, because this topic is a super pertinent one for me. And if it isn't being discussed at the upper echelons of Cricket West Indies, if it isn't being discussed at government level when the West Indies cricket team turns up in respective Caribbean islands or countries, if it's not being discussed at territorial level in terms of the territorial boards, whether that be the WICB, the LICB, the JCA, the BCA, the GCB, the TTCB, etc., then how serious are we actually taking our cricket? I mean, I feel like that's an existential question that you could apply that question for the last 25 years of West Indies cricket. How serious are we taking West Indies cricket? But now I need to speak on this. I need to speak on this one. But before I get into it proper, because I never do this properly, first things first, if you're a fan of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, but you're not yet supporting us, and when I say supporting us, I mean, we're 2 years deep into this project, maybe 2 and a bit years, maybe 2.5 years now. And we've largely done this whole thing without sponsorship. So if you can spare £2, $2, to whatever your particular currency is, head to that on the screen there, www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket. And if you just like, effectively, you, the fans, would be the sponsorship, because we can't seem to attract any sponsors for what we do and our show. So if you'd like to support, by all means, head there. If you're new to this for whatever reason, you can find us on Twitter or Instagram at Carib Cricket. We're also on Facebook. Just search Caribbean Cricket Podcast. And of course, the podcast itself, just search Caribbean Cricket Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, whether here on YouTube or via audio form on a podcast platform. Search Caribbean Cricket Podcast and you will find us. But let's get straight into it. Where are the West Indian home fans? Where are they? They haven't been there for a long time, you know. And when I say home fans, I'm talking purely in the context of Test cricket. Everyone loves to say that Test cricket is the purest form of the game. And that's what really tests if you're a good batsman or not. Okay, cool. But if it's the purest form of the game, and let's even call it the best form of the game, where is the audience to reflect that? And I'm talking specifically in the Caribbean context. Where are we? I first started, well, no, I've been thinking about this for a long time, but in terms of this year, I first started talking properly about it on Twitter after the 5 T20s in Barbados. Now, to give the Barbadians their due, more of them started to turn up by game 4 and 5 of that T20 series. But you see, game 1, game 2, and game 3, and the same thing has happened for day 1, day 2, and day 3 versus England in this test match at North Sound. All I see on my TV screen is sunburnt England fans. All I hear on my TV screen is England fans in top voice singing their Barmy Army songs. When I hear the DJ play music, I'm hearing Sweet Caroline. Imagine. Big test match, big international internationals, I should say, taking place in the Caribbean. And all I can hear is Sweet Caroline. Duh, duh, duh. No, come on, man. It's a full embarrassment. It's a full embarrassment. And immediately there's going to be people saying to me, West Indies, Cricket West Indies are in debt. Yes, we know. They lost money during, they've been being in debt. But the pandemic obviously has exacerbated the situation. Money was lost last year. Money was lost the year before that. We have to recoup money. We had Johnny Grave on the show last week, and he said it in stark terms. I think he said we lost 10 million last year, 10 million the year before that. So technically, we're 20 million in debt plus whatever, right? The best way for West Indies to make money is to have an England tour / go to India, have an India tour, whatever it might be. That's where the big sponsors come. And in terms of England, that's where the fan base comes. So let me get all of that out the way first things first, because I know that lots of you are going to say, but Mash, look at the look at the economics of it all. We've got to put the quibbles about fan base to one side. Let's embrace the fact that thousands upon thousands of English tourists will come to Antigua. They'll go to Barbados. They'll go to Grenada because they're popular, non-threatening tourist islands. I hear that. And I hear the cha-ching that comes with all that. Pure money being spent. I hear all that. But where's the balance? Where's the balance? Are we really just going to continue? I nearly said so. Let me not go that deep. Are we going to continue to twerk for coin? There, let me say it that way instead. Is that all we're there to do, to twerk for coin? Because if the attitude is England brings money, so it is what it is, don't invite any West Indian fans at all. Let's not even market the game to West Indian fans to turn up. Let's just get all the England fans in for every single game. Let's continue to have the series played out as if it's an England home series and be done with it. Because on day 1, day 2, and day 3 of this current first test match in Antigua, and speaking to people who are kind of on the ground in Antigua, on each day, has there been anything more than let's give the benefit of the doubt. Has there been anything more than 300 to 400 Antiguans in the ground at best on any day? I would say it's half that. I'd say maybe 200, 250 at best in the ground. Maybe I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, please get in the comment below, whatever it might be. But on the screen, it looks like we might as well be at Headingley. It looks like we might as well be at Edgbaston, because I can't see no West Indians. It was the same thing in the first 3 T20s in Barbados. Struggling to see West Indians. Again, let me bring the balance. I know the issues. Yes, the money. Also, let's throw in COVID. You have to be fully vaccinated. If you've been following the kind of vaccination figures in the Caribbean, it's not like all the Caribbean islands have taken to the idea of vaccination. So that automatically limits the number of people who could go. I hear all that. I hear that tickets have been made cheaper for the home fans to go. So I was told that the ticket prices for home fans in Antigua and Barbuda is $10 as compared to whatever it is for the England fans. But if it's $10 and you can only attract about 250 Antiguans to come into the ground, you might as well make it free for the Antiguans then, because what is that money really doing? And we have to be realistic here. We have to be realistic, because questions have to be asked about how we are marketing the brand of West Indies cricket. On the surface level, almost like New Zealand and All the All Blacks. And the reason why I use that analogy is like a tiny region, but the name of the rugby All Blacks supersedes the region tenfold. The Caribbean is a tiny geographical region, if you think about it, but the West Indies brand expands beyond the region around the world in the context of the cricket world game. Like, you'd almost think that the West Indies is in a superpower country, given how the brand feels in the world game. But are we marketing that brand to our own people? I would say we're not, Because if we are, you'd see them in the ground. And yes, Test cricket, it's a 5-day game. People have to work, etc., etc., etc. Of course, all that. And that's all relevant. But that doesn't excuse seeing less than 300 home fans in any ground in the Caribbean, any country, any island, seeing less than 300 home fans on any given day of a test match, work or no work. Yes, the financial realities of growing up in the Caribbean, but work or no work, is 300 the best we can do? 300? I'm tired of the excuse making, man. I'm tired of it. People say to me about Antigua, and in fact, we've tweeted it as well. The location of Viv's ground is awful in relation to the context of Antigua. People said it at the time of the World Cup. It's never gone away. It is what it is. It's in a poor geographical position if you want people to say, yeah, let me just go to. It's not in a position within the island where you can just say, yeah, let me just go to the cricket, like the Rec was. So it's in a poor geographical position. So I hear that excuse. I hear the fact that this first test, for example, was scheduled to start on a Tuesday. So day 1 Tuesday, day 2 Wednesday, day 3 today Thursday, day 4 Friday. So the one day where you might get people turning up is the 5th day. Which West Indian is buying a day 5 ticket in advance? Which West Indian would do that? Even I wouldn't do that. And I love the game. And I'm not buying a day 5 ticket in advance for any game featuring the West Indies. So the one day that you could guarantee more West Indians might turn up, you make that day 5. And I know, again, I always want to throw in the balance. I know this has all happened because this was originally supposed to be a 2-match series. And then because we went to England to save their cricket during the pandemic, England agreed to make this a 3-match series. And then IPL obviously starts at the end of March. So you've got to try and squeeze the series in to fit IPL, because that's how the global calendar works now. So I get that part of that scheduling problem has come about because of IPL. But again, to just use that is to create excuses. I'm tired of the excuses culture. It's not good enough to see any West Indian match in any country, in any island, where you can't even muster 1,000 man to come watch the side. Home fans. Forget in this context, England fans. We can't muster 1,000 man to come, and women obviously, to come and watch a match with the West Indies in Test cricket. And again, let me bring another excuse that people say, but the West Indies don't win. The West Indies lose all the time. Nobody wants to watch a losing franchise. True. That is valid. But that's an excuse. I want to know how. You don't get me angry and get me upset when I do these things. I want to know how well do we actually market West Indian Test matches? How well? And I don't want to hear excuses. Your metric, I'm talking 1,000, like 1,000's good, you know. But the fact we can't even manage 1,000 is a huge embarrassment. So let's work with the metric of 1,000. Why? I want answers. Let's focus on Antigua because that's where the first test match is. I want answers from the Antiguan government. I want answers from the Leeward Islands Cricket Board, and I want answers from Cricket West Indies. How comes we can't get 1,000 home fans in the ground? How comes? And don't tell me but people are at work. People see an England tour as the best time to make money, which is true. Your vendors, your sellers, your taxi man, all of that's true. This is the time now, tourist season, cha-ching, ching. England fans are coming, pure money is getting spent. Hear all that. But the West Indies team is playing in their home territory. It's not good enough to just give excuses and not be able to explain why 1,000, just 1,000, just asking for 1,000 can't turn up on any given day. I didn't see. It's 3 days into the first test. I ain't seen any school kids. And before anyone says to me, but how are you going to get schools going on? I'm talking about the last hour of play. I ain't seen any school kids. No khaki. I ain't seen no one. You mean what was done? What was done as an incentive to try and maximize the home fans being there? And before anyone, I don't want to hear things like, "Oh, we gave out free tickets, but people aren't taking up the options of free tickets." That's not enough. What are people doing to think outside the box? Today, when Nkrumah Bonner got his century, and big up Nkrumah Bonner, big knock, 123 off 300 odd balls, patient, obdurate, values his wicket, big up Nkrumah Bonner. But you see, when Nkrumah got his century, initially, before the England fans started applauding him, I listened out to see, let me hear what the home fans are saying. Did I hear anything? This is all I heard. Barely anything. It's only when the overwhelming 98% dominant England crowd started giving him the applaud of, you know what, that was a great innings, did you start to hear a bit of atmosphere. Imagine we're in our home territory and we're needing the away fans in our home territory to applaud our own batsman to know that he played a great knock and make him feel happy about himself. I'm not having it, you know. I'm really not having it. I am putting a challenge out there to every country, every government that gets a test match, every territorial board that has a test match at their home ground, and I'm putting it on Cricket West Indies as well, whoever the responsibility lies with. How are you going above and beyond to maximize our home attendances from our own people? Yes, you can. So at the end of this England tour, okay, if people be honest with me, is all that matters money? If all that matters about playing in our home territory is how much money can we make out of the series, if that's all that matters, don't let any home fans in then. Don't focus on ever getting any home fans in and just say, you know what, we just want to do we as far as we're concerned. Be honest with me. Is it that, as far as we're concerned, as long as the ground is full of English men and women, children, etc., we don't care how many home fans come? Be honest with me. Is that what it's about? Because if that's the case, you might as well have just essentially promoted the test series purely in the English market and not even focus on anybody in Antigua, nobody in Barbados, and nobody in Grenada. Your brand, the West Indies cricket brand, yes, depends on England. Yes, depends on India to make money. But at the same time, it is not healthy in the long run to not build up your own actual fan base. Let me ask Cricket West Indies and the different territorial boards this question. How many people within the respective countries and islands really care about watching West Indies cricket? And when I say watch, I mean go to the ground and watch. What's the ad? I want them to pull the average attendance for the last however many games at each ground. So in Jamaica, Sabina. In Guyana, if they ever get any games, Providence. In Trinidad, if they ever get any games, Queen Park Oval, sorry. In St. Lucia, I can never pronounce the name, but you know, in St. Lucia. In Barbados, Kensington. Give me the average attendance of home fans only over the last however long of international games. Because is anyone actually studying it? Does anyone actually care? The West Indies brand, to look good, needs to have its home fans there. Do you think that around the world, people are looking at sunburned England fans in abundance in the test match, squinting? We're squinting our eyes, squinting to see if we can see any West Indians. Do you think that looks good? Do you think that helps sell the brand? I don't. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. You know, if you think I'm overthinking this, jump in the comments and tell me I'm overthinking this. But I'm not accepting it. I think Bish said on commentary today, him and Mark Butcher were talking, and they were having this conversation. They actually were having a conversation about the crowds, And at one point, Bish said, and Butcher agreed with him, that anybody who says that West Indian fans don't care because you can't see them in attendance, they really do care. They're just at work and they're checking their phones and they'll be checking the radio and so. And I don't deny that. I don't not believe that to be the case. But you see, when I see Test cricket at other places around the world, I see home fans there. I see enough home fans there to create some kind of atmosphere. The only place around the world where I've seen like sparse home fans, sometimes in New Zealand, where I'm like, is that all you lot have there? And that sometimes tends to suggest to me, you men don't care either, and you've got the champion team in the world. But every other country, when I see Test cricket going on, even the teams down the bottom like Bangladesh, I'll see people there cheering. So are we happy with the look of having no home fans in the ground? Are we really happy with that? I actually think this is serious. And again, I'm well aware that some people could be listening to this going, nah, I think you're just overreacting. I actually think this is a serious debate and talking point in the Caribbean. And I think 20 minutes have gone, so I'll try and kind of wrap this up and bring this one to an end. But I did some research, right? And I've got the screen open just in case I forget. Obviously, the pandemic has been going on. But I did some research over every test match that West Indies have played up till Sri Lanka or Bangladesh at home in 2018. That's 16 test matches, right? So that's including the pandemic and pre-pandemic and now post-pandemic. 5 of those 16 test matches, Antigua have got them. This is a serious question I need to ask now to whoever it needs to be asked to. How on earth have Antigua got 5 out of the last 16 test matches when every time I look at the attendance at North Sound, I don't see anybody? No, I'm asking that serious. I'm asking that question. I'm asking that question big and strong. Big and strong. I need answers. Let me say it again. The last 16 test matches the West Indies have played up to 2018 when Sri Lanka and Bangladesh came in the summertime. Antigua have had 5 of those 16 test matches. Why? Why? What is it that means Antigua have got more than anybody else? And to put that in perspective, Trinidad have had 1 and Guyana have had 0. Now, bear in mind, everyone, I'm neither Trini, I'm neither Guyanese, I'm not Antiguan. In the context of this discussion I'm doing, this is just a Jamaican guy talking. So I got no, I'm not saying I want to see more at Sabina. That's not my point. I got no horse in this race. I'm just asking a question. Why has Antigua had more than anybody else? And I'm sure some people are going to come back to me and go, well, Mash, come on. It's down to logistics. It's easier to host in Antigua. Vaccination rates are good. But I'm talking pre-pandemic as well. I'm talking pre-pandemic as well. If you look at the last 3 series we had before pandemic came, we had India at home. Let me just go find it before I get my notes wrong. We had India at home. And then before India, we had Bangladesh. Sorry, no, we had England. Sorry, let me go again. So we had India. Before India, we had England. You know, we won that series 2-1. Before England, we had Bangladesh. And before Bangladesh, we had Sri Lanka. Every one of those series, except I think Sri Lanka, and even probably Sri Lanka as well, Antigua got a test. That don't make no sense. I get it for England, but the other lot, how comes they keep getting test matches? What's the decision making here? And what I guess the reason why I'm asking the question isn't because I'm like, how dare Antiguans get it? That's not my point. If you know when you take a test match to Antigua, no one's really showing up. How comes the test matches keep going to Antigua? I get it for the England series because you can bring England man in and fill up the crowd and the money. But how comes they're getting the other ones? What I want to know is this. Because Guyana haven't had a test match since 2011, what is the thinking here? Are we really saying that we think that there will be bigger crowds in Antigua for a game against Bangladesh at home than there would be if Guyana got a test match? Just to use Guyana as an example. What are we doing to our brand here? When I watch West Indies on TV, if I'm not in the Caribbean and I'm not present in the Caribbean, I want to see my people jumping up, liming, happy, celebrating, making noise. If it's in Sabina, blowing vuvuzela, etc. I want to see all that. What I don't want to see is either A, like we're seeing in the current test series, a bag of away fans making it seem like we're the ones who are away, or B, just empty terraces, nobody's there. What's the plan? What's the plan? Is West Indies cricket dead? Because maybe that's the last thing I should really probably talk about. Is West Indies cricket dead? In the region, have we given up on the team? Because maybe that's where I've gone wrong here. Because we have basically have been awful for 20 years when it comes to Test cricket, is it that we've reached a point now by 2022 where home fans just don't care enough? Going to watch West Indies at home in a Test match, irrespective of work, it's just not the draw card it is anymore. But this is why I'm asking every single territorial board or Cricket West Indies themselves to tell me, what are the attendance figures from every ground in the Caribbean that has hosted a Test match between now 2022 and let's go back to about 2016 when India came. Which grounds have had higher attendances? Don't count away fans. So I don't want to hear about England fans in Antigua. I don't want to hear about England fans in Barbados. Give me your home ticket receipts only. Which countries and islands are selling a higher amount of home tickets? And then you see what I want you to do when you get those figures? Focus on building back up the West Indies brand in that island first and foremost, because they're showing some signs that people might actually turn up. You see, one of the reasons why this has probably triggered me is I come from an era where when I went to watch West Indies, stadium was packed. 1998, I always talk about this series, so apologies if anyone's like, oh, here comes his story again. 1998-99 series, Australia toured West Indies. I had the pleasure of being at Sabina when Lara hit his 2-1-3. Big up Jimmy Adams as well. I think Jimmy hit a 90-odd, right? Lara hit his 2-1-3. Some people say that's the most iconic innings they've seen. And I was there for that. But forget the fact that I saw Lara's 2-1-3 at Sabina. The crowd. Energy. There was energy that day in Sabina. But more importantly, Sabina was packed. That's about 20 years ago. I want to know what has happened because we were still dreadful then, by the way. Okay, yes, we drew 2-2 in that series versus Australia, but that was the start of our decline. I want to know what has happened in the last 20 years where you can't even count 1,000 people in a home ground in the Caribbean. Okay, maybe Kensington, you can say Kensington. But as we watch this Test series right now, West Indies versus England, and we're on top, it's day 3, and we're all struggling to count West Indians in the crowd. What's happened, man? What's happened to our cricket? What's happened to our fan base? But more than what's happened, what are we doing about it? Are we just going to grin and bear it? Are we just going to say, oh, well, we made some money off it, whatever? The West Indies brand is an international brand. But check one last thing. If you forget and give up on the people who made the brand what it is, as much as you associate West Indies cricket with your Vivs, with your Laras, with your Shivs, with your Andy Roberts, with your Curtly Ambrose, with the Clive Lloyds, and this, that, and the other, all of those iconic players became more iconic because of the crowds that were cheering them on, West Indian crowds, as we were doing our antics. If we give up on trying to market our own team and our own brand to our own people, what have we really got left? What have we really got left? We're just an empty vessel then. We're just an empty vessel twerking ourselves to what benefit? I want everybody to refocus on building our brand up amongst our own people. Think outside the box. Clearly, just lowering ticket prices, that's not enough. Think outside the box. Who's getting free tickets? What are you doing for the school kids? Who's doing the market research? When do we need to schedule test matches? Which are the grounds that you can guarantee a base to work from with? If we forget about the people that made our brand look the way it looked, we might as well just be some traveling, twerking circus team. My name's Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, and that's been another episode of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. You don't have to agree. You might disagree massively so. Whatever you do, comment below. Get in the comments. Tell me what you think. Maybe you've got some ideas. I'll forward them on to Cricket West Indies and to the relevant people and to the relevant boards and this, that, and the other. But engage as ever. You know that I'll always comment back. Share this with whoever you want to share it with. Maybe I've got the complete wrong track of this. Maybe I've just, waffled on and I'm just chatting and I don't know what I'm going on about. But you see me, I love my West Indies cricket and I love my people across all the different islands. And it's shameful to see that we barely turn up to watch West Indies when they're at home. This has been the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.